The room buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses, but for Eleanor Hayes, it was a hollow echo of forgotten whispers. At 88, her frail hands clutched a worn program as she sat alone in the corner of the high school gymnasium, watching her former students, now doctors, lawyers, and executives, mingle without a glance her way. The sting of invisibility pierced deeper than any arthritis flare. She had shaped their minds, yet tonight, she was just another shadow in the crowd. Eleanor had arrived early, her heart fluttering with anticipation. It had been 50 years since she last stood before a classroom in Willow Creek High, molding young souls with stories of history and literature. She imagined hugs, stories shared, perhaps a toast to Miss Hayes, the teacher who believed in them when no one else did. But as the evening unfolded, groups formed around old cliques, selfies flashed, and conversations flowed like wine, none directed at her. A young woman, perhaps a granddaughter of one of her pupils, accidentally bumped her chair and muttered a quick sorry without looking up. Eleanor's smile faded. She smoothed her faded floral dress, the one she'd saved for special occasions, feeling smaller with each passing minute. By 9 o'clock, the ache in her chest rivaled the one in her knees. She overheard snippets. Remember that strict history teacher? What was her name? Laughter followed, but no recognition. Eleanor rose quietly, her cane tapping softly on the polished floor as she made her way to the exit. The cool night air greeted her like an old friend, wrapping around her loneliness. She hailed a taxi, the driver chatting obliviously about the weather, while tears welled in her eyes. Home was a small cottage on Elm Street, filled with books and memories, but tonight it felt emptier than ever. She sank into her armchair, staring at the framed photos of classes long past, wondering if her life's work had dissolved into oblivion. Sleep came fitfully, haunted by dreams of empty desks and echoing halls. Dawn broke with a gentle pink hue, filtering through her lace curtains. Eleanor stirred, her body protesting the night's emotional toll. She shuffled to the kitchen, brewing a pot of tea with trembling hands, when a knock echoed at her door. Puzzled, she peered through the peephole. A man in his 60s stood there, flowers in hand, looking nervous yet determined. She opened the door cautiously. "Miss Hayes? It's me, Robert Thompson, from your 1965 history class." Robert's eyes lit up as she recognized him, the boy who once struggled with dates and battles, but blossomed under her encouragement. We heard what happened last night," he stammered. "It wasn't right." Before Eleanor could respond, another car pulled up, and out stepped a woman with graying hair, waving enthusiastically. "Miss Hayes, it's Lisa Patel. You taught me Shakespeare." Soon, more arrived, a trickle turning into a stream. Cars lined the street, people spilling out with coffee, pastries, and stories bursting to be told. Eleanor's heart raced as she invited them in, her small living room filling with warmth. They came from near and far, some driving hours, others flying in overnight. There was Dr. Emily Chun, who credited Eleanor's biology lessons for her medical career. Marcus Hale, the entrepreneur whose love for poetry started in her literature club, and young families tagging along, children wide-eyed at the legendary teacher their parents revered. Laughter echoed off the walls as they shared anecdotes. The time Eleanor stayed late to help a struggling student, or how her passionate retellings of civil rights history inspired activism. But amid the joy, Eleanor felt a pang of confusion. "How did you all know?" she asked, her voice soft. Robert explained, a quiet post on a class alumni group chat late last night, sparked by one attendee who noticed her solitary departure. "We were so caught up in our own lives," he admitted, shame coloring his cheeks. "But you were the foundation. We couldn't let it in like that." As the morning unfolded, stories poured out, tales of triumphs and failures, all tracing back to her guidance. Eleanor listened, tears mingling with smiles, feeling seen for the first time in years. One visitor, a burly man named Tom Rivera, shared how Eleanor's encouragement during his parents' divorce kept him from dropping out. "You said I had a fire in me," he recalled, voice cracking. "That fire built my construction company." Others nodded, adding their pieces. The immigrant child she tutored in English, now a novelist. The shy girl who became a senator, quoting Eleanor's lessons and speeches. The gathering spilled onto the porch, neighbors peeking curiously as the line grew. Media vans even appeared, drawn by the viral buzz on social media, forgotten teacher honored by grateful students. Eleanor's mind wandered to her own past. Born in 1937 during the Great Depression, she had fought for her education, becoming the first in her family to attend college. Teaching wasn't just a job, it was a calling, a way to lift others as she had been lifted by a kind mentor in her youth. Now, at 88, surrounded by proof of her impact, she felt a profound gratitude. Yet, a subtle twist emerged when a young woman approached, not a student, but a granddaughter of one. "Grandma couldn't make it," she said, handing Eleanor a letter. "But she wanted you to know you saved her life." The letter was from Sarah Klein, a student from the 1970s who had battled addiction. Eleanor remembered her vividly, the girl with haunted eyes who found solace in writing assignments. Sarah wrote of how Eleanor's belief pulled her from the brink, leading to a sober life and a family. But the twist deepened. Sarah had been at the reunion, too frail to approach in the crowd, watching from afar. Her absence wasn't ignorance. It was her own hidden struggle with illness, mirroring Eleanor's isolation. This revelation shifted the atmosphere, adding layers of empathy. The group hushed, realizing how life's complexities had veiled their connections. As noon approached, the line showed no signs of waning. Eleanor stood taller, her cane forgotten, as she hugged each visitor. The air hummed with rediscovered bonds, a testament to enduring influence. But the day was just beginning, with more surprises on the horizon. The revelations from Sarah's letter lingered like a gentle fog, softening the edges of the morning's jubilation. Eleanor sat on her porch swing, a quilt draped over her lap, as more former students arrived, each bearing gifts that spoke volumes: handmade cards, photo albums, even a scholarship fund in her name. The twist of Sarah's hidden presence at the reunion prompted others to confess their own oversights, turning the gathering into a confessional of sorts, where regrets mingled with redemption. Among the newcomers was an unexpected figure, Dr. Harlan West, a renowned physicist whose name Eleanor vaguely recalled from the 1980s class rolls. He arrived in a sleek black car, stepping out with an air of quiet authority, his white beard framing a face etched with intellect. "Miss Hayes," he began, his voice booming yet tender. "You probably don't remember May was the kid always doodling equations in the back." Eleanor tilted her head, memories surfacing. Yes, the boy obsessed with stars, whom she had nudged towards science fairs. But Harlan's story carried a twist that caught everyone off guard. As he spoke, the crowd gathered around. Harlan revealed that after high school, he had hit rock bottom, a scholarship lost to a family crisis, leading to years of manual labor and doubt. "Your words echoed in my mind," he said, eyes glistening. "Knowledge is the light that pierces any darkness." I clung to that. What no one knew was that Harlan had anonymously funded several students' educations over the years, inspired by Eleanor's example. But the real surprise? He pulled out a check for a local school, donating in her honor, and confessed he had orchestrated part of this reunion response. "I saw the post last night," he admitted. "I called a few old friends. Turns out, your impact created a network we didn't even realize." This revelation sparked a wave of emotion. Students who had felt disconnected now saw the web of influence Eleanor had woven. Harlan's twist as this silent benefactor shifted perspectives, emphasizing how one teacher's ripple could create tsunamis of change. Laughter returned, laced with deeper appreciation, as groups formed to share how her lessons had intersected their lives in unforeseen ways. Eleanor, overwhelmed, shared her own vulnerabilities. "I thought I'd been forgotten," she whispered to a small circle. "But you've reminded me that teaching isn't about recognition, it's about planting seeds that grow in silence." Her words hung heavy, evoking nods and hugs. The afternoon sun climbed higher, casting golden light on faces young and old. Children played in the yard, their innocence a bridge between generations, while adults delved into heartfelt conversations. One particularly moving moment came from Maria Gonzalez, a former student now a community organizer. She recounted how Eleanor's history classes on civil rights had fueled her activism during turbulent times. "You made us question, Miss Hayes. You made us fight for justice." Maria's eyes sparkled as she introduced her son, a budding lawyer, who shyly thanked Eleanor for indirectly shaping his path. The human chain of influence was palpable, each story layering on the last like pages in a cherished book. Yet, amid the positivity, a subtle undercurrent of sorrow emerged. Eleanor noticed a few absences students lost to time, accidents, or illnesses. Whispers of remember when turned bittersweet, honoring the fallen while celebrating the survivors. This emotional nuance heightened the kitsch tin, reminding all of life's fragility and the preciousness of reconnection. As the day wore on, the line evolved into an impromptu festival. Neighbors joined, bringing food and music, transforming Elm Street into a block party of gratitude. Eleanor moved among them, her energy renewed, listening to tales that spanned decades. From the Vietnam War-era students who found solace in her empathy, to the tech-savvy millennials crediting her for critical thinking skills, each narrative reinforced her legacy. Harlan's twist continued to resonate. He organized a group photo, positioning Eleanor at the center, surrounded by hundreds. Cameras flashed, capturing a moment of collective healing. But as evening approached, Eleanor felt a quiet exhaustion settle in, not from fatigue, but from the intensity of relived emotions. She excused herself briefly, stepping inside to reflect by her window, where photos of past classes smiled back. Returning, she addressed the crowd. "You've given me the greatest gift, not just your presence, but the knowledge that kindness echoes forever." Applause erupted, but the day's events hinted at more to come, with plans for ongoing tributes forming in hushed discussions. The evening sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, as the crowd on Elm Street showed no signs of dispersing. Eleanor's cottage, once a sanctuary of solitude, now pulsed with life, conversations weaving a tapestry of shared history. But just as the atmosphere reached a crescendo of warmth, an unexpected visitor arrived, a twist that would peel back another layer of Eleanor's past, challenging perceptions and amplifying the human values at play. She was a petite woman in her 70s, with sharp features and a determined stride, clutching a leather-bound journal. "Eleanor Hayes," she called out, her voice cutting through the chatter. Heads turned as she approached, recognition dawning on a few older faces. This was Vivian Locke, not a student, but a former colleague, the rival teacher from Willow Creek High, who had clashed with Eleanor over curriculum decades ago. Whispers rippled. Vivian had been known for her rigid methods, contrasting Eleanor's nurturing approach, leading to professional tensions that simmered for years. Vivian hesitated at the porch steps, her eyes meeting Eleanor's with a mix of regret and resolve. "I wasn't invited," she admitted softly, "but I saw the news coverage. I had to come." The crowd parted, sensing the weight of this encounter. Eleanor, ever gracious, invited her inside for a private moment, away from prying eyes. In the quiet of the kitchen, Vivian opened the journal pages filled with letters from students, many overlapping with Eleanor's classes. "You were always the favorite," Vivian confessed, her voice trembling. "I envied that. But reading these, I realize you taught me too, indirectly. Compassion over competition." This twist of former adversary turned ally shifted the narrative's lens, highlighting forgiveness as a cornerstone of human connection. Vivian revealed she had attended the reunion incognito, witnessing Eleanor's isolation and feeling a pang of guilt for past grievances. "I spread the word anonymously," she said. "It's time to make amends." Eleanor, touched, embraced her, tears flowing freely. The revelation spread outside, inspiring stories of reconciliation among the group. Old grudges dissolved in the face of shared admiration for their teacher. Energized by this, the evening evolved into heartfelt testimonials. A stage was improvised on the lawn, where students took turns speaking. There was Jamal Wright, the artist whose creativity Eleanor had championed against skeptical parents. He unveiled a portrait of her, capturing her essence in vibrant strokes. "You saw beauty in chaos," he said, voice thick with emotion. Families shared how her influence extended to grandchildren, with one young girl reciting a poem Eleanor had taught her mother years ago. The kitsch tin peaked when a storm cloud gathered, threatening rain, but the group persisted, huddling under tents. This mirrored life's unpredictability, underscoring resilience. Eleanor shared a rare vulnerability, her own doubts during teaching years, times when she felt inadequate amid personal losses, the death of her husband, raising a child alone. We all have storms, she murmured. But together, we weather them. Vivian's presence added depth as she joined the testimonials, praising Eleanor's innovative methods that she now adopted in retirement volunteering. This unexpected alliance emphasized that growth knows no age, and rivalry can bloom into respect. Laughter returned with lighter anecdotes, pranks in class, field trips gone awry, all laced with gratitude. As night fell, lanterns lit the yard, creating a magical glow. Music played folk songs from Eleanor's era, and dancing ensued, bridging generations. Eleanor swayed gently with a former student, feeling the pulse of life renewed. Yet, in quieter moments, she pondered the broader lesson. In a world rushing forward, pausing to honor elders mends invisible fractures. The gathering wound down reluctantly, promises of future visits exchanged. Eleanor retired to her armchair, journal in hand, reflecting on the day's twists. Vivian's arrival had not only surprised but healed old wounds, reinforcing that humanity thrives on empathy and second chances. Stars twinkled above Elm Street as the last visitors departed, leaving Eleanor in a cocoon of quiet reflection. The day's events, from the initial line at her door to Vivian's surprising redemption, had transformed her world, but the true climax awaited in the intimate revelations that followed, cementing the story's profound human values. Alone now, Eleanor sifted through gifts, letters, photos, a quilt stitched with class mottos. One envelope stood out, unmarked. Inside was a handwritten note from an anonymous sender. "You saved more than minds. You saved souls." Attached was a faded newspaper clipping from 1972, a story Eleanor had long forgotten. It detailed how her advocacy prevented the school's closure during budget cuts, rallying the community with impassioned speeches. The twist? The sender was revealed in a postscript. Her own son, Daniel, who had orchestrated this final surprise from afar. Daniel, now in his 60s and living across the country, called moments later. "Mom, I couldn't be there, but I watched online," he said, voice choked. "You've always been my hero." This personal twist of family members' quiet orchestration added an intimate layer, shifting focus from professional legacy to familial bonds. Daniel confessed he had contacted Harlan and Vivian, weaving the network tighter. "Your students aren't the only ones grateful," he added. Eleanor wept softly, realizing her influence extended closest to home, where it mattered most. This revelation prompted Eleanor to share untold stories with lingering guests who returned for coffee. She spoke of her early days, inspired by her grandmother, a one-room schoolhouse teacher in rural America. "She taught me that education is love in action," Eleanor said, her words evoking a collective hush. The group delved deeper. Discussions on aging in society, the loneliness epidemic among elders, and how small acts of remembrance can bridge gaps. The night's kitchen built as media interviews trickled in, turning the event viral. Reporters captured Eleanor's poise, her message resonating. Invisibility isn't inevitable. It's a call to see each other. Social media buzzed with "Honor Our Teachers," inspiring similar tributes nationwide. Yet, Eleanor remained grounded, focusing on personal connections over fame. A final twist emerged through a young journalist, actually a great-grandchild of a student, who uncovered archived letters Eleanor had written to struggling pupils, words of encouragement that changed trajectories. "These are treasures," the journalist said, planning a book. This unearthed history emphasized timeless impact, reinforcing that one life can illuminate countless others. As dawn neared, Eleanor stood at her door, waving goodbye to the last stragglers. The street, once ordinary, now held echoes of laughter and tears. She felt a profound peace, her heart full with the knowledge that her 88 years had mattered deeply. In the quiet, Eleanor penned a letter to her students. "You've taught me as much as I've taught you about grace, forgiveness, and the enduring power of connection." The story of that reunion night and the morning after became a beacon, reminding the world of the quiet heroes among us, whose legacies bloom in unexpected ways.